Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the MoVas Military Chronograph II. This is not their second chronograph, but this is the second in the military collection. And this is from a company you have to realize that the designer, who's a very talented designer, apparently dislikes round cases. So while I think there have been some round MoVas watches, most of them do everything possible to not be round. So you have an interesting sort of combination of shapes here in this case. You have kind of a cushion style, kind of this octagonal bezel, the round dial. There's just a lot of different things here. And there's a lot of options in this watch. So one option, for example, is you can buy this with either a domed sapphire crystal or an acrylic crystal. Why? Well, there's a lot of Panerai inspired elements to a watch like this, and Panerai has watches with sapphire crystals and acrylic. On the acrylic, there's a slightly different look. It's kind of a little bit of a warm look. It's just a little bit different. You can see that the dial actually is a little bit Panerai style. It's called the sandwich lume, where there's a black element over a layer of lume, and so the hour markers are a little bit recessed with lume there. And I like that the hands are the right size. So the Chronograph II obviously is a chronograph. I've seen slightly different versions of it. So I've seen versions of different chronograph pushers. This is a slightly more simple one. I think there's some other ones as well. So MoVas stands literally for Movements of Asia. So what you need to know buying their watches is you're buying an Asian movement, but they don't like to go with simple movements. They like to find the more interesting, what they call complicated movements that have a chronograph, a GMT, or powers, or whatever. So the movement in here is the Shanghai Watch Company caliber 3L ZF1, I believe, and it looks in a lot of ways kind of like a copy of a 7750. What I mean is a Swiss Etta Valjoux 7750. So that's not what this is, but it looks like it to be a copy of their. I don't really know about the performance. It's not going to be as good as the Swiss one, but it's probably going to be good enough. I think that it's probably, yeah, it is a 4 Hertz movement, which is, I think, less common for the Asian ones. So, I mean, there are some decent Asian movements out there, and MoVas has some of the nicer ones. And again, the reason we use them is because they like to experiment with various designs. And if it was a watch with a Swiss movement, the price would be much, much higher, like 4 or 5 times higher, at least. The size of this watch is pretty big. It is a chunky watch. And, you know, there's this kind of like notion out there that a lot of Asian customers prefer smaller watches. That might be true on a more mainstream basis, but I found that a lot of Asian watch collectors, especially in places like Singapore and Japan, enjoy larger watches. So it's kind of a myth that for a watch to be successful in Asia, it needs to be smaller. There's definitely a population that likes larger watches, which is, of course, very much exemplified by the fact that brands like Panerai are so popular there. So again, if you sort of like Panerai, I think you can see where something like this would sort of fall in. The case is, I believe, it's 45 millimeters wide, pretty tall there, you can see, big sort of chunky steel case. And again, that's pretty typical of the MoVas watches. They're really trying to be a statement. I like the sort of rounding there on the sapphire crystal. It's meant to look a little bit vintage. Overall, it's an interesting piece. It comes with this rubber strap and a leather one. I happen to find that it matches this leather strap, this rubber strap better than the leather, just for my own personal taste. Here's the leather one, but if you like the leather strap more, you can do that. An interesting element is it came with this, and this is actually, this is a buckle, but this is like a belt style buckle, and it would go here. The reason I didn't attach it on the rubber strap is because this spring bar here comes off too easily, so I was afraid that it was it would sort of fall off. So I think that if you get a slightly longer spring bar here, it work out well. But I've never actually seen this kind of belt style buckle on a watch before, so I just took off the buckle here from the leather strap to match. It looks fine, but again, I think this sort of more modern industrial look looks better with this rubber strap as opposed to the leather one. That's just a personal preference there. Price for the MoVas Military Chronograph II. Again, there's some options and things like that, but I think it's $1,150 US. So not the cheapest thing in the world, but definitely a lot less expensive than what you would find if you were basically buying something with a Swiss movement. So if you like the design and you're curious about it, it's a cool company. Definitely the designs are more interesting and they are original than a lot of the stuff you see out of Asia. So it's pretty cool. You can see the full review of the MoVas Military Chronograph II on aBlogtoWatch soon. Thanks.